What's good? It's your boy Jlucas Nutrition. Today we'll be talking about macronutrients. Know your macros. It's a key to helping to control calorie intake and knowing what adjustments you need to make for your health, your fitness, and your flex. So for macronutrients, we have protein, carbohydrates, and fats. You might hear macronutrients and micronutrients. The micronutrients are your vitamins and minerals, which will come from the extraction of protein, carbohydrates, and fat. One, you need to know how much macronutrients you need, which is how many calories you need, basically, so that you can then figure out how much of protein, carbohydrates, and fat you need to incorporate in your diet on a day-to-day basis. That could be very tricky to figure out. How many people really know how many calories you should consume? The United States government has come up with guidelines where they have recommended 2,000 calories on average. But that's a very wide range to consider for people that are at a different age, physical activity level, and have different metabolic states that may not be fitting for that 2,000 calorie suggestion. So a simple way for you to figure out how many calories to consume is to take your body weight and multiply it by 10. For me, I'm around 1,800 calories. So I make my adjustments based upon that. So we take our protein and we recognize protein has 4 calories per gram, right? So if you were to go and grab something in your kitchen, or maybe you're snacking on something right now, take a look at the nutrition facts and you'll see how many grams of protein it provides. Take that number and multiply it by 4. That'll give you the amount of calories that are being provided from protein in that specific food source. Protein is very important to supporting your health, your fitness, and specifically your appetite. So when we're looking at protein, there are amino acids that make up the building blocks of protein. When you're consuming that protein food, it's giving you a certain percentage of amino acids. What's important is that you're eating a high quality source of protein so that you can extrapolate something known as essential amino acids or something known as indispensable amino acids. That means that they are required in your diet in order to support your day-to-day physical function, help support muscle structure, skin, immunity, and other metabolic functions. Over time, when you're not eating a protein-rich diet or eating foods that are high in these essential amino acids, you have what's known as sarcopenia, which is age-related muscle loss. We may not realize the effects acutely on a day-to-day basis. However, with age, there could be an increased risk of, say, falls when you're not eating enough protein. Or there can be, say, less energy you may have on a day-to-day basis. So you want to focus on high-quality protein foods, which would be meat, chicken, fish, eggs. Now, hold on a second, because I know we got them vegans out there now. You can get your protein foods from plant foods as well. We want to use things like peas, rice, beans, sweet potatoes, and have a mixture of those different sources so that we're getting a high enough protein amount to support those metabolic functions we mentioned. Now next, carbohydrates. The demon. Well, carbohydrates aren't bad. It's what we choose that makes the difference. Just like with protein, there's different kinds of carbohydrates. You got your simple carbs, like your refined white bread. You have your complex carbohydrates, like say your whole wheat bread. But is knowing how to choose the right carbs, like more fruits as an example, more vegetables like sweet potato, that can help with management of your overall calorie consumption. But where the demon comes into play, where it's more demonized for your health, is there's so many carbohydrates that we consume, and there's an overabundance of availability. Just think about it. If you go to your kitchen right now, open up your cabinet, you'll probably see that 80% that is in there is carbs. You got rice, you got potato chips, you got candy, you have bread, you got all kinds of carbs, right? And when we go to restaurants, that's another thing. we might eat an appetizer. Hey, I like chips and dip. But you see, we got chips, we got breads, right, that we're eating before our meal. We have other carbohydrate-rich foods. Then when the meal comes, we have a big serving of carbohydrates, right? So therefore, we may have excessive calorie consumption from carbohydrates itself. We don't need to totally cut them out. We just need to know how to have control, maybe skip the appetizer, or maybe do the vegetable dip instead of the chips. And we also need to know what carbs to choose, right? More non-starchy vegetables, more complex carbs like sweet potatoes, for example. I'll talk more about that in a minute. Last is fats. Now, fats kind of always get a bad rap as well, because if I eat fat, I'll be fat, right? Well, no, that's not how it goes. We see fat gives more energy in the perspective of carbohydrates and protein. However, there's maybe not a lot of fat consumption you'll have, and it's really more so about the type of fat. Just like protein, we mentioned the indispensable essential amino acids. Well, you have your essential fatty acids, which is where your omega-3 fats come into play. This is a type of fat that you'll see, say, in salmon, where it has a benefit for reducing inflammation in your body. Inflammation is one of those risk factors that can lead to heart disease and other health conditions like cancer. So we want to look for foods that are rich in omega-3 fatty acids. My book, Hip Hop Nutrition, for example, has a full list of those examples. So let's bring it back to the top. How much of these should I eat, right? You need 2,000 calories a day, 1,500 calories a day. Well, let's break it down by percentage. I recommend for your protein, you aim for 25% of your diet coming from protein. This is a general estimation. You can also replicating it by putting 25% of protein foods on your plate. So a quarter of your plate will be a protein source. Make it lean, make it baked, avoid the fried, and cook it with seasonings that aren't excessively rich in calories. Now, 25% protein is the key. You can go higher if you like. I don't suggest reducing the protein intake, as more protein could be helpful because it's going to keep you full. And protein actually takes a very long time to digest and can increase something known as your thermic effect. It has a high ability to increase the thermic effect of digestion, which has to do with heat and breakdown. So feel free to go up on protein and double, say, your lean chicken breast. Secondarily, carbohydrates should make up 25% of your plate, or more closely near 45 to 50% of your overall calorie intake, right? So we got 25% of calories, 50% of your total calorie intake. But with that 50%, you want to make sure that you're including complex carbs and very high fiber vegetables like your cauliflower, your broccoli, your spinach, and your peppers, as an example. And you want to cover half your plate with the non-starchy vegetables. That's a major key that I just gave you. I can almost guarantee you, if you fill half your plate with the non-starchy vegetables, it will be significantly beneficial for your health and your overall fitness goal. Last, for your fats, you want to aim for about 20% of your diet from fat. So we have 25% protein, 50% carbohydrate, and about 25% from fat. This will be important for supporting cellular function, neurological function, and reducing things like heart disease when choosing the omega-3 rich fat versus eating some of those saturated fats and higher cholesterol fat foods that may not be good for heart health over the long run. Well, folks, hope that you know more about your macros. Make sure that you have the balance in relation to protein, carbs, and fat. Check out more tips, comment below for more details, and I look forward to speaking with you. Peace.